So I want to give you guys a lecture on the rise of German militarism. This is a really, really fascinating topic, and I did some research today on this reality, on this phenomenon, the phenomenon of the revival of German nationalism, and how it coincides with the rise of nationalism in Germany. There is a common misconception amongst people that the nationalists in Germany are actually anti-militarist and that they are anti-war. This is a huge misconception, and it springs from people who believe the ultra-nationalist propaganda. AfD German politicians love to say that the AfD is the only peace party. A lot of German nationalists and Austrian nationalists, in that regard, also like to make this sort of argument about themselves that they are really the people of peace, that they don't want militarism, they don't want war. And so people think, wow, these people are really the peacemakers. But if you actually take the time to research the AfD, especially in the German media, in the German language, and if you actually look at their own writings and their own statements, what you will find is that this idea that the AfD and other German nationalists are against militarism is a lie. And the reality is that the AfD party, which is the biggest nationalist party in Germany, which is now the second or even the third largest party in Germany, is actually the most militarist party in all of Germany. That is the bottom line. They are a hardcore militarist, and they want to revive militarism, and they want to revive a culture of militarism in Germany. And by that, I mean they actually want to make the society become culturally interconnected with the military. So they want to change the German society from the German armed forces just being the German armed forces to the entire German military apparatus being a deep integral part of German society. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to show you guys some notes, not notes, but I'm going to show you guys some articles from the German media that really demonstrate this reality and how militarist the AfD is. And we're really going to bring to naught this common misconception that the AfD is a party of peace and that German nationalists want peace, and it's only the globalists who don't want peace. So let's get on with it. So this is an actual article that was written by the AfD. So this is not just someone's opinion. This is actually from the AfD itself. So it says here that the Defense Working Group, so the AfD has a think tank. It's called the Defense Working Group. And the entire membership of the AfD Defense Working Group are former major military officials. Or I think some of them even could be still current-day military officials. I'm not sure. But they all have military backgrounds. So this guy, Rudiger Lucassen, he's a former major military official. Gerald Autumn. Joachim Wundrock, this guy is interesting because he used to be a big player within the Europe defense branch of NATO. He was a huge major member within the NATO military coalition, this dude, and he is a major member of the AfD. The AfD actually has the most military members than any other political party in Germany. So the AfD has the highest percentage of members who are or who were in the military than any other German political party. And so I highlighted the most pertinent parts, most telling parts in this article, just so we can go through these articles quickly enough. And it says here that the Defense Working Group is the defense policy think tank of the AfD parliamentary group. So that makes it official right there. Every member of the Defense Working Group has a military or police background. No other parliamentary group in the German Bundestag has as much expertise in matters of national defense. So the AfD, while presenting itself as a peacemaker, is actually the most militarily fixated party in all of the German political apparatus. They are hardcore pro-militarism. It says here that we follow German interests and want to implement them in alliances and international organizations. So they're not saying we just want to be involved in Germany. What they're saying is that we are only fixated on German interests. That's it. Nothing more. So when you hear about, for example, the AFD saying that they are against the war in Ukraine, the reason why they're saying it isn't because they're really against the idea of going to war with Russia. The reason why they're saying that is because they know that this is America's war. In fact, this is what they have said themselves. We know that this is America's war, and we as Germany are simply doing what America demands of us, and we are tired of being the slave of the United States. What the AFD is asking for is national autonomy. What the AFD is asking for is independence from the American security umbrella. What we are witnessing with the rise of the AFD is a German intifada, or really the preparation or the planning of a German intifada. What does intifada mean? Intifada simply means uprising. So the Palestinian intifada was an uprising against the Israeli occupation of the West Bank. And that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing the intifada itself, but we're seeing a planning for a German intifada or a German uprising against American control. The Germans want more independence. Trump wants to give them more independence, militarily speaking. He wants to green light that independence. That's why Trump was all in favor for Germany increasing its own military capacity. And that is why Trump was all in favor of removing American troops from Germany. And he knows, and everyone else knows, that if you start removing troops from Germany, the Germans will begin to say, okay, we need to become more independent militarily because apparently we cannot rely on the Americans for defense, and we can only rely on ourselves and our European neighbors for our defense. And so the Europeans need to grab destiny by the hands, and we need to control our own destiny. This is pretty much what Angela Merkel said back in, I want to say 2017 or 2018. So with the rise of Trump, we're going to be seeing the rise of German nationalism even more, and we're also going to be seeing the rise of this pursuit of independence from American power in Germany. That's what we're going to be seeing more of. And it's just a reality. This is just a reality, and I've been saying this since 2016. And every single year, my prognostication, my prediction just grows more and more clear. It just gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And the fog of diplomatic deception begins to dissipate more and more. And the motivation of the Germans becomes more and more clear, and that is being a military force within Europe, being the biggest military force within Europe. And with the rise of the AFD, we are not going to see a decline in militarism, only we're going to be seeing an increase or an intensification of militarism. And if the AFD takes full power, we're not just going to be seeing Germany talking about making its military stronger, but we're going to be seeing Germany talking about making the military an integral part of German culture, to where young people will look up to the military as heroes. And who knows, one day they may just start saying that the Wehrmacht were heroes, and that we should honor them as heroes, and that the SS were heroes, and we should also honor them as heroes. And Germany will become sort of like nationalistic Japan, where war criminals are deified as gods in the Yasukuni Shrine. So it says here, we follow, okay, so he talks about, or this AFD article says, we follow German interests and want to implement them in alliances. What alliances? Alliances with which countries? Well, European countries, obviously. So Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, those countries, Scandinavia, those countries. Because they want to form a big European, a massive European military power, led by Germany, of course. A strong Bundeswehr and a confident security and defense policy are the best basis for this. Our armed forces are not in a good state today. There is no clear definition of German interests and goals. We want to change both. The Defense Working Group is committed to a significant increase in the defense budget and the full equipment of our armed forces. The suspension of conscription was one of the most serious mistakes of the Merkel government. So they want to bring back mandatory, obligatory military conscription. They want to force people in the military. And this is why I kept telling people say, oh, the Germans, they don't have people to fight. They have over 80 million people. You can easily amass an army of millions with that many people. It's not that complicated. And Germans are very conformist people. They're very obedient people, much more obedient than Americans are. And many Germans will gladly join the military if the government asks them to. The Bundeswehr is not only losing its solid roots in German society, it is also lacking new recruits. So they want to make the Bundeswehr rooted in society as a part of German society. We need motivated and strong-willed officers, not non-commissioned officers and soldiers from all parts of our people. In Germany, conscription has been guarantee of this for over 200 years. The AfD is the only party to campaign for the reinstatement of conscription. So these people are not the people of peace. These are the people of militarism and forced conscription. So if the AfD takes power, full power, I'm not talking about some bullshit power like, oh, they have a few seats. I mean, if the AfD or some other nationalist party that rises up takes over Germany, and if ultra-nationalists control Germany, there will be a massive cult of the military that will form in Germany, 100%. So here is another article. This is from a German publication, and I just highlighted the most telling parts so we can get through this quickly. And it's about the militarist ideology of the AfD. And it says here that in the debate about NATO's 2% armament target, AfD MP Lucassen, and that Lucassen guy, that's this dude. That's Mr. Lucassen. And these are all militarists, by the way. And this guy, let me show you these other people here. This dude, Joachim Wundrock, look him up. You'll see. He was a major member in NATO. And now he's a major member in the AfD. Oh, and the AfD is about what? Militarism. So all these people who are saying things like, oh, the AfD are a party of peace, they're just reading the bullshit that's provided to you in the English language. If you read about the AfD in the English language, there's not a whole lot of information. I'll just put it to you this way. The stuff that they give right in front of you in the Google search results will make you think that they're a party of peace. They're going to say they're against the war in Ukraine, and they're against the war, and they're against the war, and they're against the war, and they're Russian puppets, and blah, 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 blah. If you actually dig deeper and go past the initial results and actually look at what they're saying in German, you get a different story. Would a research in Germany still be allies with the U.S.? That's a good question. I don't know. It's possible that they will keep the alliance with the U.S. so that they can get support for fighting the Russians, but it's also possible that they will actually make an alliance with the Russians, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. It's possible that they will actually make some sort of a non-aggression treaty with the Russians, akin to something like what happened between Stalin and Hitler in the Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement, whatever it's called, and then it will be broken later on because the Germans and the Russians, no matter how you look at it, have antithetical interests. I just want to make sure I said that guy's name. Ribbentrop. Yeah. So you could see something akin to the Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement being done between Germany and Russia. And in such a situation, I mean, the Germans will have already ended their ties with the U.S. because once you start making alliances with Russia, you're pretty much dead to the United States. The United States is not going to really want anything to do with you. So if the Germans decide, okay, we're going to make an alliance with Russia because they're selling us cheap stuff, cheap oil, cheap materials, the Americans will be absolutely pissed off. Absolutely pissed off. But see, that's the one thing that terrifies the Americans more than anything. It's a German-Russian alliance. Because if the Russians and the Germans ally with each other, the Russians won't have to worry really too much about, because Germany is geostrategically in such a beefy position. The Russians would not really have to worry about other Europeans messing with the Russians. So what are the Poles going to do? Are the Poles going to go into Russian territory when a major Russian ally as big as Germany is smack right next to it? So the Russians would like to have that German alliance because that would give Russia some really nice, cozy security from its European enemies, and that would give the Russians the position to contain Germany, or at least try to contain Germany. But I don't think that would happen. I think there could be a treaty or some kind of non-aggression agreement between Germany and Russia. But I think even if that does happen, it'll be only temporary. Yeah, we know how that pact ended up. Absolutely, yeah, it ended with the German invasion of the Soviet Union. So, going back to this article here, how many people do you have listening to us? 21. Man, this is a low stream, guys. Low stream. Well, it is what it is, guys. We just have to keep on going. We just got to keep on going, keep on striving. Got to get the information out. So let me just make this a little bit bigger here. Last week was an amazing stream. Maybe because it's the day after Thanksgiving. I'm not sure. So it says here that in the debate about NATO's 2% armament target, AFD MP Lucassen stated, rebuilding our Bundeswehr will cost an infinite amount of energy and money. 2% of GDP will hardly be enough. It will not be easy, but we will do it. You can count on it. So they're already saying that, you see, because Trump has always told the Germans, you guys need to pay your fair share. You guys have to pay at least 2% of your GDP for NATO's defense. And the AFD people are saying, oh, we're going to go beyond that. You're asking for what? You're asking for 2%? Okay. We're going to do 5%, 6% GDP. In other words, they're going to go full out. And with Trump saying, you guys need to pay your fair share. If you don't pay your fair share, we're not going to help you. We're going to let Russia invade you, blah, blah, blah. That rhetoric has been used and is getting used as good propaganda to justify increasing German military expenses. It's Black Friday, that's true. Lucassen is the spokesman for the AfD's Defense Working Group and chairman of the Bundestag's Defense Commitment. In Parliament, the proportion of police officers and soldiers is highest in the AfD parliamentary groups. So the AfD has the highest number of membership from people who are in the military or in the police force. The Defense Working Group of the AfD parliamentary group says of itself, every member of the Defense Working Group has a military or police background, etc., etc. So it says here that Mr. Lucassen, he founded a company called ProAddis GmbH in 2007, and with Russian companies, pretty much, I want to say all Russian companies always end with those letters, GmbH, and that's an acronym for something. So part of this company that Mr. Lucassen founded says this. One of the characteristics of this company, ProAddis GmbH, which Mr. Lucassen founded, it says here, professional exchange with global players in the defense industry. So they're deep in this world of military technology development and the defense industry. This is one of the characteristics of the company that was founded by Mr. Lucassen, who is now a major member within the AfD. So it's all about military spending, military industry, technological innovation. All these things are fixated upon by the AfD party, but yet you have people saying the AfD is the party of peace. That is bullshit. It's LLC. Okay, that makes sense. The AfD was the first to call for the reintroduction of general conscription. So again, they want mandatory conscription. They want to make the German military massive. That's what these people want to do. The current CDU party leader, AKK, took up this demand from the CDU, etc., etc. The Bundeswehr's mission is an obligation for every citizen, says the AfD's program. The population should identify with their soldiers and their Bundeswehr, and awareness of the defensive democracy should be revived. So what they're saying is that the military should be an obligation of every citizen. So imagine you have in this environment ultra-German nationalism, militarism, where they're talking about making the people culturally connected to the military, making the military an integral part of the German culture. So bringing back, reviving German nationalism and German militarism. And then on top of that, we're living in a world where eugenics is being revived. This is very scary. This is a very scary combination. Very scary combination. In order to restore full German sovereignty, she verbally demands the withdrawal. So this is talking about one of the leaders of the AfD. In order to restore full German sovereignty, she verbally demands the withdrawal of all Allied troops from Germany and U.S. nuclear weapons from Buchel, So you could say, well, this is great, right? They want to get rid of the U.S. troops from Germany. They're against militarism. No. Because they want German soldiers to be there. That's what they want. So they want to get rid of the American soldiers. Once the American soldiers leave, then they have the greatest argument for reviving German military power, German military strength. That's what these people want to do. And Trump is going to try to help them. Trump tried to help them when he was the president. He said, we're going to remove a third of the American soldiers from Germany. And he didn't succeed. It didn't happen. I think it was because it was too late in his first term. So he never really had a chance to really invest enough effort to get it done. But the fact of the matter is that he wanted to do it. And he may try to do it again. And if he succeeds, it will further accelerate the rise of German militarism and nationalism in Germany. And that's just the bottom line. And you're going to see this culture of militarism. You're going to start seeing this push to get young people to admire the soldiers, look up to soldiers. You're going to have military commercials all over the place, military posters all over the place. Germany will become a militarist society again. Sad enough, but it's going to happen again. And they may transform their economy into a wartime economy. But the thing is that Germany needs a lot of natural resources. It needs oil. It needs natural gas. And that's why they're focused on Russia, because Russia has the materials that Germany needs. So Germany may try to do exactly what Hitler did, form an alliance with the Russians to gain those materials. The problem is that while Germany and Russia can definitely be friendly with each other, they have antithetical interests, and so that friendliness may be temporary. And that friendliness may end because of the antithetical interests that these two powers have. Germany wants to control Europe as its sphere of influence. Russia wants to control Ukraine, and Ukraine is right near Poland, and Poland borders with Germany, and Germany is not going to like that. Also, Germany has an interest in the Balkans because the Balkans borders right with Austria. Austria is right next to Germany. So the Balkans is sort of a part of Germany's backyard, if you will. And they don't want Russian influence in the Balkans. During my debate with this Serbian gentleman, he believed that German nationalists would not have interest in being in conflict with Russia. And I said, politicians may change, but Realpolitik and geopolitics will remain. So Turkey has access into the Mediterranean, and that's a very important geostrategic position. Turkey also has access into the Aegean Sea. Turkey has access into the Black Sea. So Turkey has access to numerous seas, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, the Aegean, the Sea of Marmara. All these seas Turkey has access to. So Turkey has a huge position of geopolitical influence. That's why America is so friendly with Turkey. That's why Turkey can go into Azerbaijan, and Turkey could go to Nagorno-Karabakh and facilitate the slaughter of Armenian civilians, and America doesn't say a damn thing about it because of the position. It's like the UAE. The UAE is right there on the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most, if not the most important transit point for the transportation, the exportation of oil. So the UAE is supporting what is damn near a genocide in Sudan, where you have Afro-Arabs butchering blacks and treating them like animals because the UAE wants the gold from Sudan. So the UAE backs these Sudanese, these Afro-Arab, Afro-Semitic racists in Sudan, and they're a part of a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, and they're butchering people because they're not partially Arab like they are. The UAE is backing these murderers because the murderers are giving the UAE a cut of Sudanese gold. A lot of Sudanese gold is being transported into the UAE, so the UAE wants that gold. And so the UAE supports these murderers and these rapists who have butchered thousands upon thousands of people. America doesn't say a damn thing because America understands that the UAE is right there on the Strait of Hormuz. What's on the other side of the Strait of Hormuz? Iran. So here's a map, right? So here's the Strait of Hormuz. Here's Iran. Here's the UAE, right? Something like that. And Iran can control access into the Strait of Hormuz, but the UAE is also on the Strait of Hormuz. So the UAE can be there as a check against the Iranians on behalf of NATO. If America loses the UAE, then America loses that control of the Strait of Hormuz. And so America has to turn a blind eye to whatever atrocities the UAE is supporting and backing, because it's all geopolitics at the end of the day. So Turkey has this control of access into the Mediterranean, access into the Sea of Marmara, access into the Aegean Sea, access into the Black Sea. Turkey's massive when it comes to its geopolitical beefiness. And if Germany gets taken over by ultra-hardcore Nazis, does that mean they're going to cut off their alliance with Turkey because Turkey is a predominantly Muslim country? Because you have these people online who say things like, well, these nationalists, they just don't like Muslims. Well, sure, they may not like Muslims, but are they going to cut off their alliance with Turkey because Turkey is a Muslim or a predominantly Muslim country? No, they're going to maintain that alliance. Plus, there are millions of ethnic Turks living in Germany, so those Turks produce a lot of kids. That's a lot of young people. That's a lot of potential soldiers for Germany's future military. Are they going to throw away their alliance with Turkey and plus lose all those millions, or lose that high number of potential soldiers that you could recruit from amongst the young population of all these ethnic Turks living in Germany? No, they're not going to throw that away. That's vital for them. So there's realpolitik, there's geopolitics, and these things remain, regardless of rhetoric. So Germany doesn't want Russian influence in the Balkans. And Serbia is one of Russia's biggest allies. So if Nazis, let's just say Nazis, let's just call them what they are. If Nazis take over Germany again, are they just going to say, okay, well, we're friends with Russia now. Let's just allow Russia to continue on its influence in the Balkans, continue its influence in Serbia, or let's allow, the Serbs to just willy-nilly, nonchalantly be friendly with the Russians and let Russia just expand its influence in that country. The Germans are not going to allow that. The Germans want to cement their position in the Balkans. That's why the Germans supported the Albanians against the Serbs in the war over Kosovo in the 1990s. They wanted to expand that influence there. So it says here, in order to restore full German sovereignty, she verbally demands the withdrawal of all Allied troops. Okay, we already read this. However, with one caveat. So she wants the nuclear weapons of America to be removed. And she says, the withdrawal of all nuclear weapons from German soil requires a security partnership with the nuclear powers around us and should be embedded in an overall global security architecture whose goal is complete nuclear disarmament. If practical steps are taken towards a ban on nuclear weapons, the AFD will immediately be back in the camp of the nuclear weapons warriors. So in other words, we're against these American nukes being in our country, so we want them removed. But if other countries, if other nuclear powers are not going to forego and forsake their nuclear weapons, then Germany will pursue its own nuclear weapons program, and Germany will arm itself with nuclear weapons. Germany is in a position where they have the capacity and the capability to build nuclear weapons within months. They're that good. And so that's why Germany is not, people don't say Germany is a non-nuclear country. People who study these things will say Germany is a de facto nuclear power. It's a de facto nuclear power because they have the ability to make nukes, like I said, in a matter of months. And that's what the AfD is saying. We're going to pursue nuclear weapons. Now, there are people in the Christian Democrat Party in Germany who also want Germany to be nuclear armed. So this is something that is a part of the zeitgeist that's making its presence known in Europe. There is this desire within Germany. It's a strong desire for Germany to have nuclear weapons. And so you're going to have nationalism, militarism, and nuclear weapons. If practical steps are taken, okay, I already read this. The AfD did not agree to a motion in the Bundestag to approve the motion to ban nuclear weapons. AfD MP Hampel declared his support for the policy of nuclear deterrence because nuclear weapons as a strategic policy, I just lost my focus there for a second, getting old. Because nuclear weapons as a strategic political weapon have kept peace in Europe for so many decades. He continued, quote, "In the emerging countries and even in the third world, there is certainly a mental willingness to use nuclear weapons not only as a political instrument, as we have used them, but also as a military option. So it is a completely different assessment when nuclear weapons are in the hands of politicians who do not care about human life or who are guided by emotional motives and prestige considerations." Now, there's a whole lot of word salad in there that means nothing, really. What they're just trying to say is we want nuclear bombs. AfD member Gideon from Baden-Württemberg wrote in his draft for a basic program of the AfD, "If the nuclear-armed states continue to monopolize their own nuclear power rather than dismantle and dissolve it, contrary to the spirit of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, we must preserve the right to create our own nuclear defense options in order not to be blackmailed by nuclear weapons, or to remain in constant dependence on other nuclear-armed powers." So they don't want dependence on America. They want their own nuclear weapons. It really is that simple. The AfD rejects the plans to build up its own EU army. Instead, it wants to strengthen the European part of NATO and be able to develop more creative power and influence with a highly armed Bundeswehr. AfD MP Hollmann in the Bundestag debate, quote, "Do we want to do this at the expense of German sovereignty and responsibility? No, a European army is absolutely superfluous, as we are already a member of a defense alliance that has been functioning for decades, NATO. Even if we cannot agree with everything that the U.S. currently considers to be right in pursuing its interests and goals, the USA is the leading power and the strategic partner of the West. Also, and especially for the security of Europe." So they're kind of double speaking. On one hand, they're saying we want to be independent from America. On the other, they're saying we gotta work with the Americans. So they're towing the line, if you will. They're somewhat diplomatic. They're also heavily nationalistic. Bottom line is they want to remilitarize Germany and they want to get nuclear weapons. And they're nationalist. And their most famous leader, Bjorn Höcke, admires Hitler. So do the math. Now, if I ever get a chance to talk to an American who loves German nationalism, he's going to say, "But the migrants. And I'm going to say, "Okay, what's your point?" "But the migrants." "Okay, but what about all this other stuff?" It's just, you can't penetrate people's heads. I don't know why, but it's, like I said, you got to let the horse go to the water and drink itself. You can't bring the horse to the water. Forget about it. In the Bundestag debate, Gauland, that's another major member of the AfD, referred to a thesis by Gideon, quote, "The Western elites want to abolish Germany and the German people through mass immigration. The country of the Germans is to become a multicultural settlement area." So here they are saying that the West is against us. They want us to destroy our German identity. We must fight against it. So they want to revolt against American power, is what I'm saying. And what they're presenting as their reason for revolting against American power is America controls Germany. America occupies Germany. America has been occupying Germany for over, how long has it been? Like around 8 decades or so, or almost 8 decades. America doesn't allow us to do what we want with our military. America is pushing mass migration, and we cannot accept that. America wants to pull us into this conflict with Russia, and that's America's war, not ours. And so they are really forming a very effective marketing scheme for themselves, because all those points can be legitimate, and all those points are those points really resonate with a lot of people. And so that's why they're getting so many votes. You know, you have to understand, when I first started reading about the AfD was a very small party. They were very little. And they have quickly grown within the last, 6 or 7 years or so. So The AFD calls for a strong homeland security army, the linking of civilian and military forces in its political goal. The AFD is promoting a strong homeland security army, including through a party conference resolution. The AFD's direct candidate in the Memmingen constituency promoted this with the following statement: I am also an active reservist as a liaison officer for civil-military cooperation in the Untergau District Liaison Command. So they're saying they want a civil-military cooperation. That means a culture of massive militarism, where you have pro-military posters everywhere, pro-military ads being spread around all over the internet. TikTok is very popular in Germany, so they're going to use TikTok to promote militarism. They're going to use all of their online resources and their media resources to promote militarism. And they're going to force recruitment. And they have the ability to amass, like I said, millions of people if they have to. The AFD Saxony, this is also kind of scary. Pretty scary, actually. The AFD Saxony-Anhalt election manifesto states, quote, in view of this situation, we demand that municipalities with particular crime hotspots be given the right to introduce a voluntary vigilante group at the municipal level. Now imagine this, a bunch of German nationalists forming their own vigilante paramilitary groups walking around. Imagine that. And you're going to argue and say, well, they're fighting crime. That's how it begins. First, it begins as fighting crime, and then it eventually ends up being a mafia. And they start hurting innocent people and even killing innocent people. So it goes from, hey, there are some criminals here. It goes from that to, hey, what are you doing here? We don't like how you look. You look a certain way. Are you German? Give me your ID. Show me your identification card. And it just escalates. And the whole thing escalates. So it says here that the party which is open to fascists is now the second strongest in Germany. So the AFD party is now the second strongest in Germany. The AFD generally welcomes the government's armament projects. The fact that the Traffic Light Coalition is the typical mainstream German parties. So it says here that the Traffic Light Coalition has planned an additional 1.7 billion for the defense budget was good news for now for a speaker from the alleged peace party in the debate. So this guy from the AFD, the speaker in the German parliament, he says, well, it's a good thing that they want to spend over $1 billion for the German military. And it says here that the fact that billions of euros are continuing to flow into armaments via the so-called special fund is also basically good for now. Something is finally happening. So the AFD is very excited about the German military getting bigger and spending more money. They're very excited. I enlarged it way too much. So it says here, but not enough. So they're saying, yeah, this is great. They were putting all of this money in the German armed forces, but according to the AFD, it's not enough. They want more. At least not in the eyes of the AFD. The government still has far too little ammunition on the shopping list. Here, too, the AFD is demanding significantly more. The AFD speaker tells the defense minister that he is already looking forward to the next 25 million euro proposal, i.e. the next major armaments policy project. And he assured the warmonger's defense minister that the AFD would continue to play a constructive role in the arms buildup of Germany. So the AFD is saying, we are going to be playing a big major role in the strengthening, in the bolstering of the German military. The AFD's policy papers also take the same line. It is undisputed that the Bundeswehr currently has significant deficiencies. The Bundeswehr must be comprehensively strengthened. So this is not the party of peace. You have these people who say, well, I'm against militarism, and that's why I'm supporting these nationalists. This is not the party of peace. The same thing with Trump. You see, there is this whole appeal that Trump is this peacemaker, and I talked about this in a prior video. Trump is a peacemaker in the sense that he is interested in not peace treaties, but ceasefire agreements, not because he really wants peace, but because he is a part of this plan to buy time for NATO. Why do I say this? Let's go back to the Minsk Agreement. The Minsk Agreement was not about peace. It was not about a ceasefire. The Minsk Agreement, according to Angela Merkel herself, was about giving time to the Ukrainians so that they could build up the Ukrainian military. That's all it was. That's what these peace deals are, ceasefire agreements. If there's a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Gaza, believe me, it ain't gonna last. It's all gonna come down to shit. Hell, Israel made a ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah, and like the next day, Israel already launched some missiles somewhere in Lebanon. So none of this stuff it means anything. Let's be real here. It's all about buying time, buying time, buying time. So it says here that the AFD speaker tells the defense. Okay, we already read this. Let's see here. The German army must be enabled to, quote, keep ready large units of all branches of the armed forces and organizational areas that are sustainable and fully operational in terms of personnel and material. The AFD dreams of a strong Bundeswehr, recognized, respected, and feared. Well, how do you get people to fear you? You got to get yourself a big-ass army and an advanced army with top-of-the-line technology, weapons technology. That's how you do it. And Germany has that capacity. And how else do you make an army that's terrifying? How do you make an army that instills fear into the hearts of your enemies? Well, you got to make an army that's intimidating. You got to get the good uniforms. You got to get the good aesthetics. You got to get some serious aesthetics. You got to get some scary rhetoric. You got to utilize some scary rhetoric. And I think that world, that old world that we know of Germany when we read about what happened in the 30s and the 40s, I think that old world is going to come back. I think they're going to say, hey, let's get some better uniforms. Let's make ourselves look scary. So it says here, this costs, of course, money, a lot of money, but this is not the only way to increase Germany's ability to act in terms of security policy. For German men, the AFD calls for the reintroduction of general conscription and warlike training. That sounds scary. Warlike training that approaches the conditions on the battlefield as closely as the rules of human management in a democracy allow. And it is not just the Bundeswehr that the AFD wants to strengthen. In addition to a powerful army, a strong national arms industry is also indispensable for the sovereignty of Germany. So they want to rise up a powerful arms industry. They want to have a huge, immense, powerful arms industry. I mean, all those things are there, right? You see it's just obvious what's happening, guys. It's the revival of German nationalism and militarism. The AFD wants the large-scale order to achieve more efficient and faster rearmament. The AFD, like the incumbent parties, wants to see an acceleration of the military procurement processes. And the AFD also says it supports any effort to orient NATO and the Bundeswehr away from intervention wars and towards so-called national and alliance defense. So what they're really saying is we don't want to be the tool of America. They want to be militarily independent from American power. They want to pursue their own foreign policy. The shifts in the global balance of power are forcing the Now, this is a very interesting part of the article because it talks about the world that we're entering, this new world that we're entering, where we're entering a multipolar world where America is not going to be the policeman of the earth. America is not going to no longer police the whole world by itself. So what does Germany do, right? When America creates a vacuum, what is Germany going to do? Is it just going to sit there? No, Germany has to reinstate itself as a major player of foreign policy and military might. The same thing with Turkey. America says, listen, we're going to leave Syria. Turkey's going to fill in the vacuum. It really is that simple. The shift in the global balance of power are forcing the German state to make fundamental strategic decisions. The global shifts in power are increasingly calling into question the U.S.-dominated international order of the past decade. That's right. So the world that we have been accustomed to, that world is ending. the world of unipolarity. I can't pronounce the word. The world of unipolarity is dissipating, and it's being replaced by multipolarity, or a multi-poled world. And so Germany has to strengthen itself, revive its power, and also Germany has to establish its own sphere of influence. And that sphere of influence is going to be Europe. Now, it reminds me of the Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement, where the Germans and the Soviets made a non-aggression agreement, where they agreed that they would respect each other's sphere of influence. And the Germans told the Russians, okay, you can control Finland. That's part of your sphere of influence. And we're going to control this part of Europe. And what eventually happened was, the Germans allowed this because the Germans wanted to buy Soviet materials, oil especially. And the Soviet Union eventually invaded Finland. And the Germans said, okay, well, we did say that Finland is a part of your sphere of influence, so you invading Finland is not really surprising, or it's not really against the agreement, so to speak. But according to Hitler, the Soviets just wanted to take and take and take. So Hitler said, these Soviets are getting out of hand, we got to invade the Soviet Union. So they invaded the Soviet Union. So if Germany says, okay, we're not going to get involved in America's war with Russia, we're going to create an alliance with the Russians, or we're going to create some kind of non-aggression agreement because we want the oil from the Russians. Eventually that agreement will be broken because the Germans have their own interests. They have their interest in the Balkans. They have their interest in Eastern Europe. And so because of those antithetical interests, any sort of agreement, peace agreement between the Germans and the Russians will eventually break. That's my theory. Heckler und Koch is one of the best arms company. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Rheinmetall is another big one. So it says here that as a middle power with few natural resources and an export-focused economy, Germany is particularly dependent on this order. Germany has neither the natural resources nor the sales market on its territory that are necessary to maintain its economy in its current form. At the same time, left to its own devices, Berlin is neither politically nor militarily able to assert its interests independently against resistance or on an international level. In the tug of war between the great powers over the world order, Germany is in danger of losing its usual position under the umbrella of U.S. imperialism. So they say, the longest occupation right now has been the occupation of the Palestinian territories. That's not true. The longest occupation has been the occupation of Germany and Japan. And that's been going on since the Second World War. Germany is an occupied country. So I would not be surprised to see one day a Germanic intifada in Europe, where the Germans are just going to tell the Americans, we're done with you. We're done with you. So it's possible that there will be a German intifada and Germany will go rogue. Now, there's two different instances. I'll put it like this. I see this situation happening in two different ways. One is America tells Germany, listen, we're going to get rid of the leash, you do what you want, and Germany will do what it wants. It'll de facto become an independent country. The second type of scenario that I see happening in this regard is Germany gives the middle finger to the Americans. You know, I could see either one of these two scenarios playing out. Let me just see something here. Against this, let's go back to the article here. Against this background, the question of alliances is currently a matter of great urgency for the German state. Despite all the tensions with Washington, should Germany continue to rely on a junior partnership with the USA as the transatlanticists are demanding? Or should it rather strive to reduce military dependence on the USA and instead realize Berlin's global standing through a leading position in a united and militarily strengthened EU, as the strategic autonomists would like? Or should Germany ensure the continued existence of its export economy through intergovernmental cooperation, particularly with its resource-rich neighbor, Russia, as the AfD and others are demanding? So the AfD wants a partnership with Russia to get the materials. That's what happened before the Germans invaded the Soviet Union. You go back to that whole agreement, the non-aggression agreement between the Soviet Union and the Third Reich, you will see that that was the case. The Germans wanted and needed the materials from Russia. And Hitler never really liked the idea of doing any sort of non-aggression agreement with the Russians, but he bit his tongue and he allowed it to happen because Germany needed the materials. Germany began to make its own synthetic fuel from coal. Germany also started getting oil from Romania. And then Germany began to invade the Soviet Union. And their military machine was fueled by what? Romanian oil and synthetic petroleum that they extracted from coal. And so if the Germans can find an alternative form of energy, if they can find a source of energy that's not Russia, then Germany can actually become truly energy independent without worrying about having to work with the Russians. If the Germans can obtain their own sources of energy without the help of Russia and become energy independent from Russia, then the Germans don't have to be nice to the Russians. That's just the bottom line. Above all, Germany is in danger of being crushed between the great powers, warns the AfD parliamentary group leader. So the AfD knows this. The AfD knows, listen, we're under occupation, we're controlled by the Americans, we're sick to death of it. We want Germany to become strong. And Germany cannot become strong, and it cannot fully defend itself if it's fully reliant on the United States. Berlin's importance in international talks, including with the great powers, has significantly decreased in recent years. The federal government has so far failed to find an appropriate response to the shifts in the international balance of power and the associated change in policy in the USA. In coping with the great global challenges, the AfD commits itself in a policy paper to a national foreign policy that always ensures that it is beneficial for Germany. So the AfD doesn't have a problem with foreign policy. What they have a problem with is Germany doing the bidding of America. Is Germany basically being an occupied power that just does what it's told by the United States. This is the bottom line. They want to do foreign policy themselves, but they want to do their own foreign policy in their own accord on their own terms. That's the bottom line. That's what this is about. It's not about being peaceful with the Russians. It's not about being nice to the Russians. It's about full German control and the end of the American occupation. And I think we could see in the future a German intifada, some sort of German intifada. Or it could be that the Americans will just cut the leash and say, go forth, do what you want. You got it. And that's what Trump wants, I think. Trump wants for Germany to do its own thing. That's why he wanted to pull the troops out of Germany. If you pull the troops out of Germany, Germany really is no longer an occupied country. It's a country that's independent of American power. So it says here, where did we leave off here? Hold on. It was the part on the foreign policy. Oh, here it is. The basis for determining and perceiving German interests is the sovereignty of Germany. So they want freedom from America. That's it. They want freedom for America. And AfD now, they're probably the second. At least they are the third biggest party in Germany. But the last poll that I read says that they are actually the second biggest party. They're right after the Christian Democrats. So the second or third largest party in Germany wants independence from America. And I think this really reflects the zeitgeist, the shift in the world order, what's happening. So it says here, this includes ensuring that the freedom of the German people is not influenced by foreign powers. And this goes along with what I was telling you guys years ago about Iran. The Germans have been wanting to do business with the Iranians, and every time the Germans want to do business with the Iranians, the Americans step in and say, oh, you can't do that, Germany. Iran hates Israel. And there was a whole article on this published by Der Spiegel years ago, and the whole article was about the control of the pro-Israel lobby in Germany. And the article interviewed all these politicians, German politicians, who said that they're tired of the Israel lobby telling Germany what to do. So it's not just about ending American control over Germany. It's also about ending Israel's influence over Germany. There is an influence that Israel has over Germany. And they use the Holocaust as a form of emotional blackmail. And so they say, well, you're working with Iran. Iran wants to kill all the Jews. You guys did the Holocaust. So why are you working with Iran? You're being like Nazis. You're kind of declining your obligation to uphold the values against Nazism and to uphold the values that are opposite to what led up to the Holocaust. And so a lot of Germans are tired of it. In fact, they did a study. I think there was a poll that was done in Germany amongst AfD voters specifically. And what they found was about 55% or so of AfD voters believe that Jews have too much power over Germany. So if you have, like I said, nationalism, militarism, German nationalism, specifically German militarism, and on top of that you have this rise in eugenics that's happening globally, and on top of that you have this belief within Germany that Jews are controlling Germany, or Jews have too much power over Germany, that's a recipe for disaster. Because that's exactly what the Nazis were saying when they took power. They said the Jews controlled Germany. In fact, Hitler said that the Jews are trying to run the world through America. Hitler himself said this. And so there's a bunch of people in Germany, a lot of people in Germany who say, the Jews control Germany and we have to end this. And they're voting for the AfD. So it's really quite obvious that the evils of the past are coming back, and you can feel a shift in the world's vibe. The whole global vibe is shifting. So it says here, let's see here, peaceful coexistence between nations, blah, blah, blah. The AfD sees access to all raw materials and sales markets as vital for our country's survival. The AfD also comes to the conclusion that Berlin is not in a position to enforce its interests alone, at least not always. As a middle power, Germany does not carry any military weight and should therefore rather see its role among the nations of the world as that of mediator, as honest broker. So it wants to become a world superpower, while at the same time strengthening its army and national arms industry in order to increase its military weight. As long as military independence has not yet been achieved, the AfD wants to enforce German prosperity through goal-oriented cooperation with other states. In this context, the reconciliation with Russia is of utmost importance for the AfD, not because they love Russia, but because they want to get the resources. That's one of the main reasons why the Third Reich invaded the Soviet Union. It was to get Russia's natural resources. Because from a pragmatic point of view, it must be recognized that Russia has more than sufficient quantities of the raw materials that Germany urgently needs. The AfD rejects pursuing German interests through a junior partnership with the USA or a common EU security and foreign policy. The approaches of the transatlanticists and the strategic autonomists both contradict the AfD's top priority. Germany's national sovereignty, the transatlanticists, are prepared to accept Germany's military and thus power political dependence on the USA, unthinkable for the AfD. So they want to, like I said, it's about freedom. It's about ending American power, the American occupation over Germany. The thing is that if you end the American occupation, expect Nazism to come back. That's all I'm saying. And it's just, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that American imperialism is necessarily good, although it has done good for the world. What I'm saying is that I'm just looking at what's happening in the world through an objective lens and saying this is what's going to happen. And what I'm saying is if this happens, this other thing will happen. And I'm just stating it as a matter of fact. And that's the bottom line. It really is that simple.